In the late 1960s, a killer began writing to the newspapers of the San Francisco Bay Area. He included complex ciphers. He gave himself a name, and he dared the police to catch him. On December 20th, 1968, on a gravel turnout along Lake Herman Road in Benicia, 17-year-old David Faraday and 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen were both shot and killed. It was his first confirmed attack. 7 months later, on July 4th, 1969, the violence shifted to a dark parking lot at Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo. 22-year-old Darlene Ferrin was killed, while 19-year-old Michael Magot survived multiple close-range gunshots to provide the first physical description of the shooter. By autumn, the setting changed, but the method became more calculated. On September 27, 1969, on a quiet peninsula at Lake Berryessa, 22-year-old Cecilia Shepard and 20-year-old Brian Hartnell were bound and stabbed repeatedly by a masked assailant. Shepard succumbed to her injuries, but Hartnell survived the brutal assault. The fourth confirmed attack occurred on the night of October 11, 1969, moving from isolated lovers' lanes into the heart of San Francisco. 29-year-old taxi driver Paul Stein was shot in the head inside his cab in the Presidio Heights neighborhood. 4 attacks in 10 months. The progression showed a killer growing bolder, migrating from dark roadside turnouts to a quiet residential city street. 5 lives were taken, while 2 young men survived. But this violence was only the beginning of a larger, highly calculated campaign to terrorize the public and control the media. On July 31, 1969, 3 nearly identical envelopes arrived at the newsrooms of the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald. Inside each was a handwritten letter and 1/3 of a 408-character cryptogram. The writer claimed responsibility for the killings at Lake Herman Road and Blue Rock Springs, offering details only the shooter would know. But it was the demand that shifted the case from local violence to public theater. The killer ordered all 3 newspapers to print his cipher on their front pages by Friday afternoon. If they refused, he threatened to spend the weekend cruising the Bay Area, slaughtering 12 people at random. To prove his authority, he marked the letters with a symbol that would soon freeze the region, a circle split by a crosshair. Newspaper editors became an unwilling audience and relay system, trapped in a high-stakes calculation. If they refused, they risked lives. If they complied, they granted an anonymous shooter direct access to the public. The Vallejo Times-Herald printed its segment of the cipher on August 1st. The Chronicle and the Examiner followed on August 2nd. Just days later, on August 4th, a second letter arrived at the Examiner, opening with a phrase that redefined the entire investigation. "This is the Zodiac speaking." The correspondence established a taunting, controlling pattern. Long before the police could put a face to the crimes, the killer had successfully forced the media to broadcast his voice. On August 1st and 2nd, 1969, thousands of Bay Area residents stared at the grids of symbols published in their morning papers. While professional codebreakers at the CIA and the FBI began their analysis, the first breakthrough came from a suburban living room in Salinas, California. Donald Hardin, a high school history teacher, and his wife Betty treated the 3-part cryptogram as a weekend challenge. They recognized that the 408-character cipher was likely a homophonic substitution, where multiple symbols represented the same letter to mask common language patterns. Working with pencil and paper, the couple searched for a starting point. They assumed the killer's ego would lead him to use the pronoun I frequently, and they looked for repeating symbol clusters that might represent common double letters, eventually guessing the word killing and the phonetic spelling of paradise. On August 8th, the Hardins submitted their solution. The recovered plaintext offered no legal name, but it confirmed the deep malice of the writer. The message began with a chilling confession. "I like killing people because it is so much fun." It described the hunt of human prey and claimed his victims would serve him as slaves in the afterlife. The Chronicle published the plaintext that same day. While the breakthrough proved the killer's codes could be broken, it delivered no closure. The sender had promised to reveal his identity once the puzzle was solved, but he had lied. The public now had his words, but the man behind the crosshair remained completely anonymous. On November 8, 1969, the San Francisco Chronicle received another cryptogram. It contained 340 characters arranged in a dense, chaotic grid of symbols. Unlike the first cipher, this one resisted every effort by police, military intelligence, and amateur sleuths. For 51 years, it stood as a silent, frustrating wall, anchoring the case's long afterlife in the public imagination, defying both the FBI's elite cryptanalysts and thousands of civilian hobbyists across the globe. The deadlock broke in December 2020. An international team, software developer David Oranchak, mathematician Sam Blake, and programmer Jarl van Eyck unlocked the puzzle. The solution required a custom-designed software stack to bypass the killer's intentional obfuscation. The Zodiac substituted symbols for letters and scrambled the reading order using a diagonal transposition layer combined with homophonic decryption. When the letters eventually aligned, the plaintext revealed a taunt. "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me," the message read, before mocking a television broadcast and declaring, "I am not afraid of the gas chamber." Once again, the decoded text offered no legal name. The decryption verified the writer's malice and his signature spelling of paradise, but it provided no new forensic leads. This vast gap between a solved puzzle and definitive proof remains the central frustration of the case. This gap is even more apparent in the remaining unresolved messages, like the 13-character "My name is" cipher mailed in April 1970. Because these shorter codes, including the 32-character map cipher, contain so few characters, they are mathematically impossible to solve with statistical certainty. Any attempt to decode them yields dozens of equally plausible yet completely unprovable solutions. These fragments remain silent, fueling an endless cycle of speculation where every theory finds a mirror, but none find a resolution. The hunt for the Zodiac was fractured from the start, split across the Vallejo Police Department, the Napa County Sheriff's Office, the San Francisco Police Department, and the FBI. In the late 1960s, no centralized database existed to share ballistics or fingerprints. Detectives compared evidence by hand, mailing paper files between counties while trying to reconcile conflicting witness reports of a shooter described alternately as stocky and short or tall and thin. Among thousands of tips, one name repeatedly surfaced: Arthur Lee Allen. In 1971, police searched Allen's Vallejo home, seizing a typewriter and a Ford Bronco. In 1974, he asserted his Fifth Amendment rights before a grand jury. Yet, the physical evidence never matched. Late-era forensic tools could not link his handwriting or fingerprints to the letters, and decades later, early DNA testing from the envelopes would exclude him entirely. Allen died in 1992 without ever being charged, leaving the case officially unresolved. The Zodiac's true survival lay in the deliberate design of his legacy. By forcing newspapers to host his theater, he successfully transformed himself from a regional killer into a permanent, haunting fixture of American folklore. His unfinished ciphers, designed to tantalize, ensured the investigation could never be closed. Without a name or a face to anchor the crimes, the public became active, unwilling co-authors of the legend, filling the silence of the police archives with decades of theory. The original case files grew cold, but the persona endured. The absence of a definitive identity allowed endless speculation to permanently replace closure, keeping the mystery alive. He wrote the letters, he sent the codes, and then he disappeared, leaving behind one of the most enduring mysteries in American crime. Will his identity ever be proven? Share your theories below. This has been Shadow Files. Forgotten Evidence. Subscribe for more. Subscribe.